Today's book insights comes from To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. I'm really excited to share the insights from this book because I finished this book in 4 days flat. I could not put it down. Very easy to read but practical book. So let's get into it. So Pink describes that stereotype that I'm sure most of us think about when we think about salesperson. The sleazy second-hand car dealer, or perhaps the old school door-to-door salespeople. Well, in fact, he argues that all of us today are in selling. He found people are now spending about 40% of their time at work engaged in non-sales selling, which he describes as persuading, influencing, and convincing others in ways that don't involve anyone making a purchase. Across a range of professions, we are devoting roughly 24 minutes of every hour to moving others. This makes it clear that we're probably all actually in selling, not in the original old school sense of the word, but in the terms that Pink describes of moving others. So let's take a look at the first insight. So if we consider selling in this framing of moving others, moving them to display the behaviors or do the tasks that you wish, rather than a particular purchase, then the strategy we use to move others is really important. And Pink shows a differentiation in success between 2 strategies: agitation and irritation. So irritation is probably the norm. It's about challenging someone to do something that they don't want to do. And in the book, Pink describes a student that was struggling and hadn't completed any essays or projects. He contrasts that with the strategy of agitation, and that is challenging someone to do something that they do want to do. So in the case of the student, a particular teacher unlocked this student by encouraging them to focus their essay topics on a topic that is of interest to them. In that case, it was talking about the Oakland Raiders. And I think that can be used across a whole host of industries in terms of trying to find the piece that will make the behavior of benefit or of interest to the individual that you're trying to move. So again, contrasting to the traditional sense of selling and the old school sleazy salesperson, Pink introduces his concept of the new ABCs of selling. A for attunement, B for buoyancy, and C for clarity. So attunement, firstly, is all about being attuned to the person that you're trying to move. And one of the key themes from this particular discussion was around perspective taking. But perspective taking is really important. In fact, it's described as the essential quality for attunement in terms of selling in today's world. I've previously talked about perspective taking in sports science as well, whether that is the athletes, the coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, or medical practitioners that we're surrounded by. There are a lot of different views and perspectives in that setting, and there can be agency problems associated with that. And so if we can take the perspectives of others, put ourselves in those shoes, and as this book describes, demonstrate humility for our own positions and really seek to understand others, then that is a key skill that can help us connect and then move others. The B of Pink's ABC of selling is buoyancy, which generally speaking was this theme of actually being positive and lifting people up. In doing so, you can help move them towards their goals. And one of the key insights from this particular chapter, I thought, was around interrogative self-talk. I'm sure many of us have tried to use that self-talk before a presentation or a meeting or anything where we're trying to get our point across. Perhaps we try and pump ourselves up. Well, Pink argues that we need to flip that slightly and actually ask ourselves questions. So rather than just telling ourselves that we can do it, ask ourselves the questions and answer those questions. In fact, he links this to Bob the Builder's catchphrase of, can we fix it? Yes, we can. But in this sense, we are changing it to, can we move others? Yes, we can. And then giving ourselves the evidence to back that up. And research has shown that people that ask themselves questions have more success and confidence going into those settings. So actually, rather than pumping yourself up by saying, I will do this, I will do that, turn it around and ask yourself, will I do this? Will I convince others of my point? Will I present this in a way that will make people want to do what I'm telling them is beneficial to them? And the C in Pink's ABCs of selling relates to clarity. And he talks at length about how previously the gap in terms of the buyer and the seller was information. The car dealer had more information about the car than the potential buyer. Given the information world that we live in today, and particularly the internet, that means that gap is much smaller, if even potentially non-existent. So information is not the issue. And the insight I took away from this chapter was around asking better questions. So when going into a conversation, a meeting, or a presentation, Pink suggests that we actually sit down and reflect on our questions. And then we improve those questions by really trying to get to the heart of the information that we want to find out from our counterpart. Pink also encourages us to really drill down into perhaps the 3 most important questions that we could have for that individual. Because if we can have better clarity in the questions that we're asking others, we can then receive better information that we can then use to curate and package in a way that will help to move others. And finally, there was a lot of crucial information and ideas around pitching. Again, whether you're a salesperson or not, at some point you're going to have a conversation or a meeting or a presentation where you are pitching an idea or a service to someone else that you want them to move towards. And so the elevator pitch is relatively well known. This is that idea of being in an elevator or a lift with the person that you're pitching to, and you have that few seconds journey to get your point across. Well, Pink presents a number of other pitch styles, which are all really useful. So those 6 different styles are the 1-word pitch. So think of MasterCard, for example. When you hear the word priceless, you associate with them. So what could your single word pitch be? The second one is the question pitch. So moving people by asking them a question. Thirdly is the rhyming pitch. And actually Pink provides the website of rhymezone.com, which will do the hard work in finding the rhymes for you. The subject line pitch. So a really interesting and now seemingly obvious idea that your subject line for an email is essentially always a pitch to get someone to read it. So perhaps we need to spend a bit more time curating what we're going to write for our subject lines. The 5th one being the Twitter pitch. And in terms of, obviously Twitter allows 140 characters, so encouraging you to get your pitch down to that short tweet length amount. And finally, the Pixar pitch. And Pixar comes up time and time again in these books on the topic of storytelling. Their pitch always is framed in this structure. Once upon a time, something. Every day, something. One day, something. Because of that, something. Because of that, something. Until finally, something. So can you turn your pitch and your idea into a Pixar story by using that framework? So those are my 5 key insights from To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. A fantastic read, and even though it was published back in 2012, it is still as relevant today. Because as Pink says, we're all in sales now. Whether your title says salesperson or not, in some way in our professional and our personal lives, we are trying to convince others and move them towards a particular behavior. For those viewers who work in sports science, it's absolutely of relevance to us because we are often trying to move our athletes or our colleagues and coaches towards particular ideas or behaviors. If you enjoyed this video today, please hit subscribe and keep a lookout for my next Book Insights video coming soon.